Have you ever sent a message that came back to haunt you, not because of what you meant, but because of what it actually said? Well, that's exactly what unfolded in this intense exchange involving Umshini Dlamini. And let me tell you, it's one of those moments where communication and accountability all collide in real time. So here's the situation. Dlamini is being questioned about a message he sent. Just a message, right? Simple. But no, this message opens up a much bigger issue involving a tender process, a list of names, and the mention of CIC Juju, also known as Julius Malema. And from the very beginning, you can feel the tension, because what Dlamini says he meant and what the message actually communicates are not the same thing. But before we break it down, let's listen to what they had to say. Don't forget to give us a like, share, and subscribe. Now let's get to the video.
But then why mention Mr. Malema in this message? Because what you say is check with the CFO, Mfowethu, if it's the same with his from CIC Juju.
Much as I'm saying, they said they are from the CIC Juju, much as I mentioned it here.
That's not what you are saying in the email. You may have meant that, but that's not what the chat says. Sorry, not the email.
Yes, much as I'm saying, I mean, writing a message might not mean what you actually want to translate, but that's what I meant.
And you don't mention Muzi and Sipho at all in this chat?
Yes, I did not mention them here.
So why do you mention Mr. Malema? Why do you not say, check if the list he has is the same one from Muzi and Sipho?
They claim to be coming from the CIC.
But that's not what you are saying here. You're not saying they are claiming.
I wanted to be clear so that when he verifies, he says, remember that we are not only speaking on messages only. I also called to say this is the situation. Explain in detail. A message will not capture everything, Commissioner.
Deputy Commissioner, what the message does capture is that you know the CFO to have a list from the CIC. That's what your message conveys.
Yes.
You know him to have a list from the CIC. That's
from Sipho and Muzi.
No, that's not what your message says. That's not what is captured in your message. Your message captures that you know that the CFO has a list from the CIC, and you are asking Sergeant Nkosi that the CIC should look at that list, which he has from the CIC, and compare it with the list that you say came to you from Muzi and Sipho. That's what you're doing. There are two different lists.
Commissioner, Muzi and Sipho.
Oh, sorry, the CFO should... Okay, let me start. I don't want to be misunderstood. Let me start. Your message conveys that in so many words, it's not a question of interpretation. Your words in this message conveys that you know that the CFO has a list that he got, and it's a list of the CIC, in brackets Juju. You know that the CFO has that list. And what you are doing with your message is saying to Sergeant Nkosi, the CFO should compare that list, which you know he has from the CIC, compare it with this list that you say was given to you by Muzi and Sipho. That's what your message is conveying.
And no, Commissioner. Sipho and Muzi came to me and said we have a list from the CIC that we have given to the CFO. I'm saying verify if this is the same.
Yeah, but your message doesn't say the CFO must confirm that the list he got from Sipho and Muzi, he should compare them, that it is the same as the one that they gave you, the same people gave to you. That's not what you're conveying. You are clearly conveying that the CFO is sitting with a list that he got from the CIC. That's what your message says.
That's what I learned from Sipho and Muzi, Commissioner.
Right. Thank you.
A few answers back, you said you don't communicate through WhatsApp chats only. You also talk. Who are you referring to? Who would you talk to?
I called Sergeant Gosi to explain, to say I was with these two individuals that I grew with.
Okay, all right. I just
Yes.
wanted to know who you were referring to. Yes.
Deputy Commissioner, you say these people wanted you to help them or assist them with the tender,
Yes, Commissioner.
right? You say that. So you know that's why they gave you this list. They want to get a certain advantage through your assistance to do with the tender. So when you send this same list to the CFO, even on your version, even if one accepted your version, that you were not you didn't know that he has a list you were not conveying that he has a list from the CIC. On your version, you sent this list to what end? You know the purpose of the list. It's to get assistance and advantage in a tender process. When you send it to the CFO, it's for what purpose? It cannot be you want to verify that they are members of the ANC, of the EFF. It's irrelevant. This is a tender process. It's a tender process of the city, has nothing or should have nothing to do with whether people are ANC or not. It shouldn't matter. In fact, you should, if you were acting properly, you would have kicked them out of your office, right? And said, I want nothing to do with this. You don't do that. You forward it to the CFO.
Commissioner.
To what end are you giving him the list?
Commissioner, they make name dropping. There's a number of people who come to my office. There's ex-combatants who come sometimes with the hope that I might assist them. If they are honest, and I can see these people are honest, I do explain to them to say, I'm no longer working with these things, I'm not involved in these things, because they were honest. But people who come and name drop someone, you'll definitely want to verify the authenticity.
So if this was authentic, what, you would have helped them with the tender?
No.
Then exactly my question. What is the point of you sharing this list with the CFO? Name dropping cannot be your explanation for it. We are talking about a tender process. They don't come to you to say, we know so-and-so. They're not. That's not the purpose. They didn't come to you to say, we know the CIC. They came to you on your version for help with the tender process. And that help is to help them get this tender. That's why, and that's what you understand. You forward the list with that understanding that these people have come to you not to name drop, but to get assistance with a tender. You forward it. And the question is, why do you forward it when you know that it's being given to you for an improper purpose? It doesn't matter whether they say the president, the mayor, deputy mayor, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. What matters is they come to you to say, assist us to get this tender, and you know that's improper. When you give it to the CFO, it is for what purpose?
If they come to me, Commissioner, and say, assist us, and not use people's name, I'll explain to them. But they are using people's name. If they could have came and be frank and honest, then I could have done that. But they are using people's name.
All right, that's your answer. Thank you.
Why did you ask Sergeant Nkosi to check with the CFO rather than just asking the CFO yourself directly?
I know that Sergeant Nkosi has a relationship with the CFO. I don't have the CFO's numbers. I don't have, a relationship with the CFO.
Why can't you just look up the CFO's number on an internal Tswane directory?
Because I knew that Sergeant Nkosi, I know him and he has a relationship with the CFO. It was gonna work better for me, for him to verify for me.
But on the face of it, this is a matter concerning the business of Tswane, is it not?
It's correct.
Someone is coming to you with a list that they say is the EFF's list and suggesting that you might interfere with the tender process in Tswane tender TMPD 1 of 24-25 to privilege these companies. That's what the approach is about, is it not?
It's correct, as I explained, SC, that if they could have came like other people who come and say, look, we are ex-combatant or we are military veterans, can you assist? I'll explain to them to say, I don't have that authority to be able to do so. I have done so in many people.
It didn't convey to you that Mr. Malema had given a list to the CFO?
No.
No, they didn't. They just said that they had given a list to the CFO.
Correct, SC.
Why then, in your message, did you refer to a list that Mfowethu had from CIC Juju?
Much as I'm saying, it's a message, but that's what they said. My typing maybe might have appeared to be sounding otherwise.
Well, it's not your typing, it's your message. You say, check with Mfowethu if it's the same with his from CIC Juju. So your message presupposes that there is a list from Mr. Malema that has been given to the CFO.
From them. The list came with them.
Yes, but you're now telling us that what they told you is that there was a list that they gave to the CFO and that they didn't mention Mr. Malema.
No.
But you were then the first person to mention Mr. Malema.
To say they are doing that on behalf of the EFF.
Yes, but according to you, they didn't say that the list, that they told the CFO that the list came from Mr. Malema. They didn't tell you that?
No.
So they didn't say, we've come from the CFO and given him a list from Mr. Malema.
They said they have a list that it's from Mr. Malema. They gave it to the CFO. When I verified with the CFO, it was not true.
Sorry, how did you verify with the CFO? Because you said earlier you were not talking with the CFO, you were talking
I verified through Sergeant Nkosi. I sent this message to Sergeant Nkosi.
But then why do you say I verified with the CFO? Why don't you say I verified with Sergeant Nkosi?
Through Sergeant Nkosi.
Where is the text where you verified through Sergeant Nkosi with the CFO?
I sent a message to Sergeant Nkosi.
Yes,
to say
where is that? I'm asking for that message. Where is it?
431 Commissioner. In message 431, I'm saying, afternoon, Captain, I trust you are well. I'm saying the above is from the Red Beret. Please check with him forward to if it's the same with his and so forth to verify the authenticity.
Yes, where is that verification? Where do they come back to you and say there is no list from the EFF or there is no list from the CIC?
Sergeant Nkosi called me and informed me.
Oh, it was a phone call?
Yes.
Deputy Chief, is there no contact list of the Tswane employees?
There is, Commissioner.
What was so difficult with you getting the CFO's number from that contact list, calling him and directly verifying from him? Why did this have to go via Sergeant Nkosi?
I took advantage of the relationship Sergeant Gossi has.
No,
with,
that doesn't make sense.
with
No,
the CFO.
that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. If you want to make a genuine verification with an employee of Tswane, you being an employee of Tswane, there is a contact list which is readily available. Why don't you take that contact list and call the CFO and seek this verification? What do you say about their relationship does not make sense? Why did you not do that? Why not pick up the contact list and call the CFO directly?
Commissioner, if you are close to someone, I've never had a meeting with the CFO. We meet only when it's formal meetings. I've never had a chat with the CFO.
This is not about closeness. This is about Tswane business. This is about Tswane business and the sort of thing you should inquire about directly from another Tswane employee. It has nothing to do with familiarity. Why did you not pick up the contact list, get the number, and call the CFO? What we are saying does not make sense at all.
Commissioner, I think we should agree that we might not approach matters on the same way.
On the what?
Or on the same way. It might be ideal that I could have looked for the CFO's contact numbers and called
let's
him.
assume that you were not aware of any relationship between the CFO and Sergeant Gossi. What would you have done then?
I could have left it.
Not inquire at all.
Yes, I could have left it.
Did you see a
because I
need,
did not trust them.
Did you see a need to inquire from the CFO?
I did not trust them.
Did you see the need to inquire from the CFO?
Yes, Commissioner.
But you say you would have dropped the subject altogether without verifying, just because there was no Sergeant Gossi. Is that what you are saying?
I'm saying because I knew their relationship,
No. I'm talking about dropping, because I understood you have 2 questions back to say you just have dropped the whole thing. So I'm saying just because of the absence of a Sergeant Gossi, you would have dropped the subject, even though you considered it something serious enough for you to have had to inquire from the CFO. So you would have dropped it because there would be no Sergeant Gossi.
If I could have met him in a meeting sometime, yes, I might have asked him.
No, that's not my question. My question is, would you have dropped it just because there was no Sergeant Gossi?
I'm saying I could have either wait up until I go to a meeting where he is, then I could have asked him.
You said you would have dropped the subject.
At that time, I'm saying at that time, but because I knew Sergeant Gossi at that time, much as I wrote this message to him quickly.
And then you would have asked him if an opportunity presented itself for you to meet the CFO, and then you would have asked him, you say.
Yes.
But I still don't understand. There is a contact list. Why wait for a chance meeting? There is a contact list. Why not pick up that contact list and call the CFO? Why wait for a chance meeting, which might never eventuate?
That was going to be more ideal for me, Commissioner, to discuss with him face to face. Because I've never had this contact or call him just to ask him about these matters.
That too, Deputy Chief, does not make sense. You want to comment?
No, Commissioner.
Yes, Mr. Chaskalson. Let's just look at the time.
Now, Dlamini's explanation is pretty straightforward on the surface. He says he mentioned Malema because the people who approached him, Muzi and Sipo, claimed they had a list connected to the CIC. According to him, he was just trying to verify whether the list they gave him was the same one the CFO had. That's it. Simple verification. But here's where things start getting uncomfortable. The commissioner doesn't focus on what Dlamini says he meant. Instead, he zeroes in on what the message actually says. And that's a big difference. Because in the message, Dlamini doesn't say, these guys claim this list is from the CIC. No. The message comes across as if he already knows the CFO has a list from the CIC. That's not a small detail. That's a completely different meaning. And the commissioner is not letting that slide. He basically says, look, your message isn't vague, it's not open to interpretation. It clearly suggests that you believe the CFO has a list from the CIC and you're asking someone to compare it with another list. That's what your words say. And Dlamini tries to push back. He says, well, sometimes messages don't capture everything. Maybe the wording didn't fully express what he meant. He even explains that he also made a phone call to clarify the situation because, in his words, the message will not capture everything. But the problem is, in a situation like this, the message is everything. Because when you're dealing with something as serious as a tender process, people don't investigate your intentions. They investigate your actions. And in this case, the action is the message. And this is where things start getting even more interesting. The commissioner begins to question the entire purpose behind Dlamini sending that list in the first place. Because according to Dlamini, these individuals came to him asking for help with a tender. That's already a red flag, and not just a small one, a big one. Think about it. If someone walks into your office and asks for help to gain an advantage in a tender process, what's the correct response? According to the commissioner, it's simple. You shut it down immediately. You tell them you want nothing to do with it. But that's not what happened here. Instead, Dlamini forwards the list, and that raises a very uncomfortable question. Why? Dlamini tries to explain it by saying the individuals were name-dropping. He suggests that when people start mentioning big names, you naturally want to verify whether what they're saying is true. And okay, that sounds reasonable at first, but the commissioner isn't buying it, because this isn't just casual gossip. This is a formal tender process. Whether someone name-drops or not shouldn't matter. The issue is that they were asking for assistance to influence a tender. That's the core problem. So again, the question comes back, why send the list to the CFO? And this is where Dlamini starts to struggle a bit. He insists that he wasn't trying to help them. He says even if their claims were true, he wouldn't have assisted them in the tender. But that just leads to another question. If you weren't going to help them, then what was the purpose of forwarding the list? You can almost feel the room tightening at this point, because the logic just isn't lining up. And then things take another turn when the discussion shifts to how Dlamini tried to verify the information. Instead of contacting the CFO directly, he goes through Sergeant Nkosi. Now on the surface that might not seem like a big deal, but in this context it becomes a huge issue. The commissioner points out something very simple. There's an internal contact list. Dlamini could have easily looked up the CFO's number and called him directly. No middlemen needed. So why didn't he? Dlamini's answer is interesting. He says he didn't have a relationship with the CFO. He says they only meet in formal settings and have never had casual conversations. So, instead, he relied on Sergeant Nkosi, who he believed had a better relationship with the CFO. And again, that might sound reasonable at first, but the commissioner shuts it down almost immediately. Because this isn't about personal relationships. This is official business. When you're dealing with something as serious as a potential interference in a tender process, you don't rely on who you're comfortable with. You go straight to the source. And the commissioner makes it clear, this explanation does not make sense. At one point, he even pushes Dlamini into a corner with a hypothetical question. He asks, what would you have done if you didn't know Sergeant Nkosi? And Dlamini's answer is, he might have just left it. Think about that. He saw the situation as serious enough to warrant verification. But if the convenient option wasn't available, he might have just dropped it entirely. And that's a major contradiction. Because you can't say something is serious enough to investigate, and then also say you might have ignored it completely under slightly different circumstances. That's when the commissioner really presses him. Why wait for a chance meeting with the CFO? Why not just use the contact list and make the call? Why delay something that you claim is important? And again, Dlamini's answers don't quite hold up under pressure. He says it would have been more ideal to discuss it face to face. But the commissioner isn't convinced, because in situations like this, ideal doesn't matter. What matters is acting properly and efficiently. And throughout this entire exchange, one theme keeps coming back again and again: the gap between intention and action. Dlamini keeps saying what he meant. He keeps explaining his thought process, but the commissioner keeps bringing it back to what was actually done, What the message said, what the actions showed, what the situation required. And when you strip everything down, that's really what this whole thing is about. It's about accountability. It's about how, in positions of responsibility, your words and actions carry weight, whether you intended them to or not. It's about how a single message typed in a moment can be interpreted in ways you didn't expect, and then scrutinized in ways you didn't anticipate. And maybe the most important takeaway here is this. In high-stakes environments like government and public service, there's very little room for, "That's not what I meant." Because at the end of the day, people don't investigate your intentions. They investigate your conduct. And in this case, that conduct raised more questions than answers. So next time you send a message, especially in a professional setting, just remember it's not about what you meant to say. It's about what your words actually say. Because once it's out there, you don't get to explain it later without consequences.